Joining us now is Congressman Michael Cloud. He represents Texas's 27th Congressional District. He's the member of the House Appropriations and Oversight Committees as well. Congressman, good to have you with us.
Good to be with you, Vince.
I understand that you are very busy this week trying to dismantle all of those bigoted DEI practices going on across the country. What are you up to?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have introduced the Dismantle DEI Act. And, of course, we've seen the great work that President Trump's done day one heading into office to get rid of this scourge, really, that's been placed upon the nation and throughout our government. And so what our bill does is really three things. It goes throughout the federal government, closes down these offices, which, of course, President Trump has done, but we got to make sure that it doesn't come back under any other president.
Right.
And then what the Biden administration had tried to do was really force feed this on the American people through the contracting process and through the grant writing process. So, we've seen, for example, all the USAID stuff. A lot of those grants were DEI stuff. Now, that was going overseas, but there's a lot going to educate to universities and the like throughout our country. But then if you're a business wanting to do business with the federal government, they would make your business take on these ridiculous DEI practices in order to be able to get a contract with the government. And this is not what our country's about. These efforts for all the good terminology are discriminatory and not really what this country's built on.
Yeah, no, not at all. Congressman, how do you prevent the left from trying to smuggle this type of bigoted, divisive work in under some other name or try and hide it from your detection?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is obviously something we're going to have to be ever vigilant about, and that's the importance of what we're doing on the Oversight Committee and what you see DOJ doing and looking at receipts and the like. But we define really what it is in the legislation, and so it's important for anything that's looking at race or these other demographic factors over merit, anything that tries to say that one specific class of individual is somehow oppressed over another, and that's the basis for your hiring or training or those kind of things. These divisive leftist ideologies really coming out of Marxism and all those sort of things that they've tried to foist upon us. It defines that, and we counter that. So,
yeah. I love it. So,
of course, they're going to keep working. We see them keeping working. Even in the Oversight Committee hearings this week, you think they would have learned the lesson, right?
Yes.
And what we see is them bringing the same sort of mantra and diatribes and that lost them the election that the American people clearly rejected. They're still trying to push that. And it's mind-boggling, really, at this point. But it just shows you that we're going to have to continue to be vigilant about these things.
One of the things I'm worried about here, Congressman, is even if you were to prevail in passing this law, the Dismantle DEI Act, which sounds excellent, the reality to me is that DEI as it exists is already a violation of the law. The Civil Rights Act was designed to literally outlaw discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, and yet the left doesn't seem to care. They just keep advancing these bigoted programs. What can we do to keep them from violating the law? I mean, could we prosecute people who actually are trampling on these laws that are designed to prevent the very thing that's happening now?
Yeah, we'll need to keep doing that, obviously. Reagan said, freedom doesn't pass automatically in the bloodstream. It has to be fought for, protected, and passed on to every generation to do the same. And, of course, we think of our military on the front lines doing that, and that's certainly a huge part of it. But it's about everything that we're doing, too, even as parents and what's going on in our school system, certainly those of us in Congress, and making sure we're providing the oversight and looking into the receipts and making sure that we know what's going on. It's just been crazy. We've seen some of the safety issues, of course, that have arisen from the Secret Service to some of these Boeing, is having issues with their planes while they're safety wasn't the number one issue anymore.
Yeah.
We saw this throughout our we're dealing with Army Corps projects throughout the country and in our district, and they're taking 3 days off to go to DEI trainings and learn all about intersectionality and those kind of things. I'm like, how does this help you build things quicker?
So crazy.
Even our national parks were developing curriculum for kids to foist this kind of, so we've got to defund these sort of things. We certainly, as Congress, have to have the backbone to do it. Thankfully, right now we have an administration to work with us, but we can't just sit on our hands over the next 4 years and expect the president to do everything. We know he will, but we've got to come behind him and codify these things into law, reduce those budgets. You know, if this is what they're spending money on, they don't need the money, obviously.
Yes.
So we've got to rein that in. You know, some of these discussions I've been into on the Hill, they'll be like, well, if we do that, we have to fire people. I'm like, yes, that's the goal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Have to sweeten the argument for me, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm already supporting it. You don't have to convince me. That's funny. Well, I know that you and Senator Eric Schmitt are presenting this legislation respectively in the House and Senate, which is great. Did you consider calling it the Civil Rights Act of 2025? Like, why you don't need to do some other name. Get the left to vote against the Civil Rights Act. How about that?
That's a good idea. We probably should have had you on the creative team with us. We were coming up with ideas.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, I'm full of ideas, but sometimes I whip them out. Okay. Hey, Congressman, how are things in Congress these days? I know President Trump wants to hopefully get one or two big reconciliation packages done that are designed to advance his agenda. Do you see that happening in the Congress?
I do see it happening. We're making headway on it. You know, I understand when you're sitting at home watching Congress, it can be frustrating because what you see out of the Republicans is what Congress is supposed to look like. And sometimes you'll see, establishment media and those kind of things make heyday of the fact that we have a deliberative body and people, all of us working to advance the America First agenda, but making sure that we have the discussions on how and what's the best way to get there. And so we're making progress. Some of us had favored a two-step process, some a one-step process.
Yeah.
For me, it's the most important thing is that we execute on whichever it is, and whatever is included in that process, we have to turn the fiscal corner. So we can't continue to add to our debt. We can't continue to run $2 trillion deficits every year and expect us to meet what is a national security crisis in our fiscal situation.
Yes. So
it's got to be dramatic in what we're doing, not only to rein in some of the crazy stuff we see coming out in the news this way. I mean, one of the arguments I've been saying, as we work on these bills is like, how about let's stop sending them money to do bad things, especially when we're talking about the Biden administration, but when it comes to turning the fiscal corner, making sure we send the message to the world and to investors and to everybody that we recognize the situation we're in. We're going to get our fiscal house in order, and for the taxpayers, we're going to return a good ROI for what you're investing in.
So obviously, Elon Musk and his team are working on behalf of President Trump to try and cut as much spending as they can. But the president could be assisted with congressional help, right, in terms of giving him more powers to responsibly act as a fiduciary on behalf of the American people. Because right now, Congress passes out-of-control spending, and then the law really tries to limit the president from trying to save money for the American people. Do you imagine? Can you envision Congress stepping up and empowering the president to save us some more money?
Yeah, yes, we certainly can, we should, and I think we will. Part of the problem is we had an administration that secrecy and deception and all these kind of things and the shell games they were playing with, and so we would ask the questions and we would not get the answers. So just for the fact that we have an administration that's willing to work with us and to bring accountability and to bring transparency, and when we go into these agencies now and we're asking the questions to find out where's the money really going, to be able to have an administration for us to be able to work with to reset these spending levels, so to speak, reset what the norm is, to what is this agency or what's this program actually supposed to be accomplishing it? Is it accomplishing those goals? If not, let's get rid of it. Let's make the adjustments necessary.
Yes.
So already you're seeing the benefits of it. But
and you're in a good position to manage a lot of this, Congressman. We're talking to Congressman Michael Cloud. You're on the House Appropriations and Oversight committees. I mean, those are the two committees you want to be on. if you're going to assess how these agencies are spending money and whether or not they deserve the ridiculous budgets they've been using, right?
Yeah, somehow we ended up on these committees, and it's certainly been, these are the two committees that have jurisdiction over the whole federal government. So one on the spending side and one on the investigatory side. And then we're on the DOJ subcommittee on oversight as well. So it really is a unique space to be able to investigate on one side and use the tools available through the Oversight Committee, and then to bring what we're learning there into the appropriation space. And what it's kind of technical, but what a lot of people may not understand at home, in the Appropriations Committee, you can enter a sentence into a bill that has the effect of an entire piece of legislation, where you basically say, these funds shall not be used for, or we shall use these funds for such and such a thing. We had some success in really the last couple terms, getting some good, solid appropriations bills through the committees into the House floor. But of course, the Senate, with where they were, and the Biden administration wasn't letting these good bills get through. So we're obviously in a different paradigm now. We'll have the reconciliation process to deal with some of the long-term spending aspects of it, but then when we're looking at what we're doing from year to year and what we're spending these projects on, we'll definitely have a Senate that's more willing to work with us, and certainly a White House that's going to be helping us as well.
Well, it's a cool time to be in Congress. We're praying that you guys all use it very well. Congressman Michael Cloud, thank you very much. Good to talk to you today, sir.